At 12 minutes past 5 in the morning, a Wednesday in April, San Francisco stopped existing as it had been. The ground tore open along a fault line stretching almost 800 miles, and in under a minute, brick buildings that had stood for decades collapsed into dust. What followed was worse than the earthquake itself. Fire would finish what the shaking started. A foreshock rattled the city 20 seconds before the main shock arrived. Then the real shaking began, lasting roughly 42 seconds. Some streets sank several feet, while others rose. Cable car rails twisted into ribbons of metal. One witness said his house shook so hard it felt like it would break all to pieces. The San Andreas Fault runs the length of California, from the Salton Sea to Cape Mendocino, roughly 800 miles. It marks where the Pacific Plate grinds slowly past the North American Plate. In 1906, decades of accumulated strain released at once, rupturing nearly 300 miles of that boundary, with shaking felt from Oregon to Los Angeles. Shaking intensity reached the highest rating recorded for the disaster, 11 out of 12 on the Mercalli scale. The worst destruction struck areas built on soft, waterlogged ground. Old Bay mud filled in and built over. Bedrock neighborhoods barely trembled, while nearby streets on landfill liquefied and swallowed buildings whole. By nightfall, more than 30 separate fires burned across the city, sparked by ruptured gas mains. One started when a woman in Hayes Valley lit her stove for breakfast, not realizing her chimney had cracked. That single fire devoured 30 blocks, including the Hall of Records. Within 3 days, the flames destroyed 25,000 buildings across 490 city blocks. San Francisco's fire chief had already died from injuries suffered in the quake. The one man trained to coordinate this fight. Firefighters, untrained in explosives, dynamited buildings for fire breaks, and the blasts often started new fires instead. The fires burned 4 days straight. In the end, fire caused far more destruction than the earthquake itself. At least 80%, possibly more than 95%. Here's the detail insurance companies didn't advertise. Most policies covered fire damage, but excluded earthquake damage. So property owners with cracked, still-standing buildings did something drastic. They set them on fire themselves just to collect the insurance money. A US Army captain reported firemen telling residents exactly that: burn it, or the claim wouldn't pay. At the Palace Hotel, opera star Enrico Caruso woke to the shaking mid-tour. He grabbed a signed photograph of President Roosevelt, fled the city by boat and train, and swore he would never return. The Metropolitan Opera lost every costume and said it had brought west. Botanist Alice Eastwood raced into her crumbling museum and saved the Academy's entire plant collection by hand. Federal troops poured in from Angel Island within hours, more than 4,000 soldiers eventually patrolling the ruins. The mayor authorized police and troops to shoot looters on sight, but soldiers themselves were accused of looting the very city they were sent to protect. Officials first announced a death toll of a few hundred. The real number was suppressed for decades. City leaders feared that admitting the scale of destruction would scare away the investment San Francisco needed to rebuild. Hundreds of deaths in Chinatown went unrecorded. Only in 2005 did the city officially recognize the true toll: more than 3,000 people. With over 200,000 people left homeless, the army built more than 5,000 small wooden cottages, painted navy blue, and rented them for $2 a month. Families lived in camps across Golden Gate Park and the Presidio for more than 2 years. A few dozen cottages still stand today, quietly folded into houses across the city. San Francisco rebuilt astonishingly fast. Within 9 years, the city hosted a World's Fair, celebrating its own rise from the ashes. The disaster permanently shifted the balance of power on the West Coast, as investment and population growth increasingly flowed south, toward a smaller city that would spend the next century becoming Los Angeles. The last known survivor of the earthquake died in 2016, 11 days short of his 110th birthday. Every April 18th, San Franciscans still gather before dawn at Lotta's Fountain, the spot where survivors once searched the crowds for missing loved ones to remember the morning their city nearly disappeared. San Francisco didn't just rebuild, it reinvented itself block by block on the same restless fault line that destroyed it. That fault has never stopped moving, and California has never stopped building on it. 100 years from now, the next city on shaking ground may face its own 12 minutes past 5.